Hey guys, it's Prayer Morona. I'm Tyler,
And I'm Paulo.
and today we want to talk about witches. No, I'm joking. Um, so today, we want to talk about witches.
It is basically us talking about witchcraft and the true meaning behind it, as well as is it more than just magic? Magic is deception, but we don't want to do the Salem witch trials all over again.
No, but granted, probably most of those witches weren't even witches. All right. So first, we want to talk about witchcraft as is described in Scripture. That sound good with you?
Yeah.
All right. You want to pull up some references. So, in the scriptures, we have the Witch of Endor, which is a Star Wars planet. I don't know what the Ewoks have to do with witchcraft. They do eat stormtroopers. But, anyways, I'm getting off topic here. So, we have the Witch of Endor and Saul in 1 Samuel 27:25. You want to pull that up. But what I can give you the gist is it's basically Saul goes to this witch because he wants to talk to the prophet Samuel, but he's dead. Surprise, surprise. So he goes to the witch to basically summon him so he can talk to him. And Samuel's like, "How dare you? If the Lord won't talk to you, why would I talk to you? Because I am a servant of the Lord," or something like that.
Well, do you want me to say all of this?
Dude, this is 25. We're supposed to be reading 28.
Oh my God, that's my bad. I read the wrong one. It was talking about sheep for that one.
Yeah, I think that's talking about the Messiah, aka Jesus. All right, you want to actually read the right scripture?
Yes, yes, I will. Then said Saul unto his servant, Seek me a woman that hath a familiar spirit, that I may go to her, and inquire of her. And his servant said to him, Behold, there is a woman that hath a familiar spirit at Endor. And Saul disguised himself and put on another raiment, and he went, and two men with him. And they came to the woman by night, and he said, I pray thee, divine unto me by the familiar spirits, and bring him up, whom I shall name unto thee. And the woman said unto him, Behold, thou knowest what Saul hath done, how he hath cut off those that have familiar spirits, and the wizards out of the land. Wherefore then layest thou a snare for my life, to cause me to die? And Saul sware to her by the Lord, saying, As the Lord liveth, there shall no punishment happen to thee for this thing. By the way, that is where Endor comes from. However, they should have put more of, what's it called? It's like N instead of
Endor,
N. And
Endor,
I'm sorry,
Endor the witch.
I'm saying it in a weird way. It's just because I have speech problems. But anyway, it says, And Saul sware to her by the Lord, something we should not do, saying, As the Lord liveth, there shall no punishment happen to thee for this thing. Then said the woman, Whom shall I bring up unto thee? And he said, Bring me up Samuel. Then said the woman, Whom shall I bring up unto thee? And he said, Bring me up Samuel. And when the woman saw Samuel, she cried with a loud voice, and the woman spake to Saul, saying, Why hast thou deceived me? For thou art Saul. And the king said unto her, Be not afraid, for what sawest thou? And the woman said unto Saul, I saw God descending out of the earth. And he said unto her, What form is he of? And she said, An old man cometh up, and he is covered with a mantle. And Saul perceived that it was Samuel. And he stooped with his face to the ground and bowed. And Samuel said to Saul, Why hast thou disquieted me? To bring me up? And Saul answered, I am sore distressed, for the Philistines make war against me, and God is departed from me, and answereth me no more, neither by prophets nor by dreams. Therefore I have called thee, that thou mayest make known unto me what I shall do. Now, I think we already got past where we wanted to be.
Yeah, she summoned Saul, Samuel.
Well, it seems like a familiar spirit.
Yeah, so basically what I was wanting to point out here is that witchcraft is real. I mean, it talks about it in the Bible and with Pharaoh's magicians, when King Manasseh was practicing sorcery, Simon the sorcerer, and all that. And then also in Mormon, especially later, when there's all these things about there's priestcraft flooding the earth and all this wickedness. And then also there's several times it talks about it in the Doctrine and Covenants. So witchcraft and sorcery is real. Now, is it the hocus pocus witchcraft with the pot stirring? That's alchemy, which we'll dive into that later. But I think the main like magical powers is mainly just like a Ouija board, which does not speak very well of Ouija boards because those are definitely demonic.
So, if I was able to say something, another thing I would like to talk about is, how do I say this? Witchcraft, when we talk about witchcraft, yes, like he said, it technically is like mystical in a sense, but there's a lot of realistic things that it's anchored to.
It's true.
And one of those things is it's really connected a lot with manipulation. People who manipulate intel, people who have connections and use it for devious purposes. This is something that I believe, not only believe, but it's been shown over and over again that that's witchcraft.
So the main thing we want to talk about was about how witchcraft isn't only this summoning spirits or treating snakes or just because as we know, witchcraft is the counterfeit to the priest. Satan counterfeit has to use counterfeits. Like his counterfeit to the butterfly is the moth. That's probably not true, but just as like a thing, you know? But so what I really want to get into is about how witchcraft could be manipulation for dark purposes, or just really manipulation. I'll keep it with dark purposes.
There's many things that could go into the category of
Yeah.
that would make sense.
So there might be some name calling for me at least. I might throw some names out there. Does this mean they're witches? No, but like I might use them as examples. So I am going to first talk. So how would you want to approach this?
You were talking about alchemy, yes.
I was planning on getting into that later, but yeah, we can get into alchemy, I guess.
Alchemy. Wait a minute, but we were on the topic of
Yeah, we were on the topic
so
of
let's go to the manipulators as of today. Not just manipulators, people who are soothsayers. Well, soothsayers technically are manipulators, but the people who know like the intel and how to switch it and twist intel in a way that suits them. People who do things such as politics and politicians who use it for profit and self agenda, well, self-fulfilling agendas.
so I'm a criticize both sides of the political spectrum. The left manipulates your compassion and your love into basically you must love everyone with everything and love is love and it manipulates compassion to basically you have to accept whatever like a black person does. You must accept it even if it's like we must accept everyone, no matter how evil or stuff. So the left manipulates your compassion, but the right, right now, with like the Charlie Kirk situation and all that, I feel like the right is manipulating our religion. And to be honest, I consider myself more right than left, way more right, but I still like I see like these people who are like Charlie Kirk was the moderate one. Now it's time to go full blown and stuff like that. Like I feel like it manipulates our religion. The right manipulates our religion through like, because it's like Trump using, I'm a Christian too. No, that's a terrible Trump accent. They're nice people. There we go. I'm a Christian too. First Corinthians, 1 Corinth, in 1 Corinthians. I grew up Christian. Stuff like that. You know. Like he was using the Christians to his like he was manipulating, he was convincing the Christians to vote for him by reciting scripture and going with their ideals, stuff like that. So the right and the left manipulate both of us using different things. The left manipulates our compassion, the right manipulates our religion. What do you think?
I think seems interesting. However, politics never.
Well, that's because you're a nice guy. Politics only targets the weak, like me. No, I'm joking. Politics just sucks in general. But so manipulate. So basically, anytime someone's influencing control others, anytime someone uses knowledge to destruction rather than creation, Anytime someone seeks power apart from God, that's manipulation slash witchcraft. You want to say anything about that?
No, I think that pretty much sums it up.
Cool. All right. So does that cover manipulation? Should we do something more about it? Like, I don't know. There's a lot. I mean, we could talk about it a lot more, I feel like.
One thing I would like to talk about is influencers. Like online
Mm.
influencers have a lot of. One thing I've learned is about the effects and the natural order of tribalism. Basically, people form groups in where they're most comfortable in, where they agree the most. So basically, we like to gather up into groups as to what fits most comfortably. So in that sense, it technically does not allow anything to be invited into tribalism, into those tribes. Anything new, anything that tests or tries to let you learn, that doesn't really invite much. And that's seen a lot as of today, where people will gather around certain influencers who agree with certain things, whether they're beneficial for other people or not, because they agree with them. And that can cause a lot of problems.
Well, I wanted like influencers like Andrew Tate. I told you there's gonna be name calling in here, but like Andrew Tate, like his manipulation of like you must be the bird, you're all the worms, you know? Like some of the things he says like is coolish, like how he carries around the sword. That's like one of the only cool things about him. But the rest is I really don't agree with the rest of his mindset, you know? But like on the bird, you know, it's very not it's very selfish-ish, you know?
More prideful? Are you
Yeah,
trying to talk about
prideful.
that?
It's very prideful, and it's not really like serve others, you know, that Christ teaches.
But how does that tie into manipulation?
Well, he's using that, and then you know, he's selling it pretty good, you know. Like, a whole bunch of young men have been listening to him and stuff, and it's been creating this toxic masculinity. Wow, masculinity. I feel like it's manipulating people. But then again, people like John DeLynn or Nemo the Mormon, which I could get into so much about them, but they also manipulate our Carter Ellis from War Radio often describes it as profiting from misery, or something like that. And it's so true. Like he definitely manipulates your misery, and so like paying for the subscription so you can listen to him. Like I think a lot of therapists, podcasters do that. You know, like they give you their ideas, they manipulate you, stuff like that. But I also think it happens on the right too, with like all these like Christian podcasters where they're not even gonna say the name of our church and they're gonna just spread all these lies and manipulate you into thinking that we're this weird cult that worships Satan when we're not. And I feel and the left does it with making us think we're a weird cult who's oppressive.
Oppressive how?
Well, that we oppress women and it's traffic women. It's TikTok, Instagram are sucky places to be if you're an LDS content maker. Trust me. Also, I got my first anti-comment. Did you know? Yeah, I got my first anti-comment on my very first. So I've reached them. I have reached my target audience. Good job, comrade.
I don't know if that's healthy.
No, it's not. Well, I am trying to reach my target audience is really just reaching out to like people who aren't like I want to reach to everyone, but like the main one is like the people who aren't in the church, who are like investigating and like aren't anti or any of that. But you know, stuff like that, you know, how like podcasters and stuff, they manipulate you by using these words like cults or stuff like that. I mean, it's just
Not gonna lie,
witchcraft, might I say?
that is fair. However, the one therapist thing, I don't know about that. That's kind of iffy. Some people do use it, however, for selfish reasons. I feel like it's a more personal concept. Just like how with people, they put, how do I say this? They put certain people into groups by naming them under certain categories,
Yeah,
which can be
labels.
harmful in a lot of ways because it kind of like makes it impossible for people to, how do I say this? No, it doesn't make it impossible for people. It makes it really hard for people
to
to differentiate between certain people and how each and every person works.
basically talk to them, there's often like a other, it's what the Nazis did with the Jews. Talking about the Jews. I can't get the accent. I'm not to study on my accents, but like they othered the Jews into this thing, and then basically we were able to kill them.
For someone who had such a really
First off,
devious mustache job,
thank you.
he was really, really good at manipulating people, getting
Yes.
people to literally kill their neighbors who they loved just because they were put into a group known as Jews.
Hopefully we don't get monetized for talking about this.
Slash, you're sponsored by a certain company or product.
Yeah, but we're not getting sponsored by anyone, so yeah, mustache guy. But
Yeah.
oh well, if we get monetized, we get demonetized. We could probably just record a new one. Anyways, what we were talking about, yeah, about how like we're manipulating people by, like this thing with Charlie Kirk or with the shooting in Michigan. It's just been we've been labeled or they've been labeled as this other thing. You know, Charlie Kirk was labeled as a fascist and thus an other. And so, what do you do with fascists? You kill them.
I thought we weren't going to use Charlie Kirk.
Listen, we're not gonna do like a full-on video about Charlie Kirk to use him as content, but we can talk about him and use him as examples. Like, I really don't want to use Charlie Kirk as like a content farm. I don't want to do that. So I only did one video, but I'm willing to talk about it.
That is fair. That is really fair. It's something that can be really easy to, fall into.
Yeah. Anyways, manipulation. Oh, we forgot. Surprise, surprise. Um,
Technically, we were talking about it still. It was really important what we were talking about. Though
it's
we did
true.
get on to some tangents, we were still talking about manipulation here.
That's true. Um, by the way, guys, this isn't a witch's mark. This is just a rug burn I got yesterday, so don't worry about
Yeah, it's
that.
not the mark of Satan.
That'd be crazy. But no, this is just a rug burn I got from wrestling with my siblings. Anyways, do you think we covered manipulation good? Yeah.
Pretty
And if you
decent.
guys want, comment, like, and subscribe. And if you want more stuff about like this, I'm willing to do a second video if you guys want it. All right. Next, I want to talk about gaining knowledge. And I want to do this with, gaining knowledge is not a bad thing, but it can be at the same time. It depends where you get your knowledge from. Would that be a good thing to say?
In a sense, yes and no. It depends on whether or not that knowledge is good. Well, there is no such thing as technically there isn't much of a thing as good knowledge. It's more of the intentions and the way you use it. Knowledge is power and a tool, and it's meant to be used for a purpose. Whatever those purposes are is what defines whether or not it's good or evil.
So, but what I mainly want to talking about was the about gaining knowledge in evil minds. Would that be a suitable word?
Gaining an evil mind?
Like gaining knowledge for evil purposes?
Yes.
All right, but mainly what I want to talk about is the A word. Hopefully, don't get demonetized for this. Abortion. That's what I really want to talk about because in the Apocrypha, it talks about how the fallen angels and them taught the people witchcraft, stuff like that, including abortion. It talks a lot about abortion. In First Enoch 7:4 through 6, the fallen angels teach sorcery and destructive arts. And in Clement of Alexandria, Tromata, Book 3, Chapter 4 through 5, sorcery and abortion practices. It talks about that. And it's basically how they got the knowledge of abortion through witchcraft. basically. Basically, sometimes gaining knowledge for evil purposes is witchcraft. So these are the two things so far. Manipulation is witchcraft for evil purposes, and gaining knowledge for evil purposes is witchcraft.
That is fair.
Evil is the specification here, guys. Not everything, not like manipulation is like a hard, because like it's like a really wide thing, but we're getting distracted here. But yeah, gaining knowledge about abortion. But if the people in the past got knowledge of abortion from demons, what does that say about the scientists who got the knowledge?
Well,
I'm not
some
saying they're evil.
no.
I am not saying that. Please don't come after me, Scientology. I don't know why I said that, but
It
there's science in their names. So.
some people do use it for evil. Some people have discovered it for evil. However, it has also been discovered to help people. And that's because people really care about others' lives. Some people aren't
True.
willing to give up their own life for a child. And it makes sense. I mean, some people aren't willing to give up their life for someone they haven't even met yet. So again, it makes sense. And then there's certain situations, by the way, this has been brought up a lot to me, where things such as like being and not
Yes.
wanting to carry that.
Yes, it has been brought up a lot. I have a complicated feeling because at the same time, after getting our words, I'm trying not to get demonetized here. Um, our words, and then also like say your life is on the line. You should be able to survive, you know? But then again, it's still a child of God there. But again, that's where choice comes in.
Yes, and it's not just a logical thing of choice, but it's also emotional. It's really hard to carry something that reminds you each and every day of how you were basically violent. That's something I can understand because I know some people have gone through certain things.
Which is why I have complicated feelings about it.
However, one thing I would love to be possible is to basically be able to remove the fetus and still have it grow.
Dude, incubation chambers, is that what you're talking about?
Yes, it's like it would solve a lot of problems. It would make sure that they don't have to do abortion, though it might cost a lot of money.
I feel like again, I have complicated feelings about this, but there is always adoption,
That is fair. Yeah, you don't have to raise the child.
but yeah, yeah, it's complicated here because I support it, but then again, it's still like a child of God, and it's not its fault, but
To be honest, it would make sense.
life is complicated.
And by the way, adoption is really hard sometimes because I've been adopted, and being in that process is really difficult for a child, especially when their coworkers there don't really care about it. And
Well,
that is a common thing as of today.
yeah, I think we need to fix the adoption process.
A lot more than fit. But I pray it does get settled eventually.
Yeah.
However, back on topic, abortion, it's knowledge that it sometimes is used for good intentions, but it has been used a lot for evil purposes, such as like lust and being able to have a child. Well, not have a child, and yet enjoy doing pleasure.
Yeah, and I think that's like because it talks about Ward Radio did an excellent video about this. Maybe I'll link it in the comments in the description, but if I can find it. But talking about like their original sin was abortion, and about how they could this it was all from lust because then guess what? You can have a whole bunch of fun without any of the consequences.
Yes, and it's a really dangerous thing to play with. Lust is really, really difficult, and something that a lot of people, it's basically a type of witchcraft, if I may say, that is used a lot that can conquer even the most greatest of men. And I'm saying that as in men and women.
Well, yeah, because the origins of witch, the meaning was both men and women.
Yes.
It's just kind of because of folk stuff and Hollywood that it's mainly just become just women. And then wizards have become men. Which, one of these days we should do a video about Lord of the Rings and like the Christian stuff in there.
Oh yeah,
That
that's
would be
really
an
cool.
awesome video to do. There's getting off topic here again. But yeah, gaining knowledge. And then I'm gonna use this to segue into our next topic, alchemy.
Alchemy is another thing.
In like the Apocrypha, it talks about how they had this like potion for like this stuff, which is just alchemy. And so again, I feel like alchemy can be used for alchemy used for evil purposes. It's witchcraft. And what is alchemy? A mysticized chemistry.
That is
And
correct.
what do we get? And what did we learn through chemistry? How to do abortions.
I wonder where it says that in the scriptures. Don't we have
It's in
some
that
resources?
Apocrypha, right? And Clements of Alexandria, Stromata, Book 3, Chapter 4 through 5.
Sorcery and abortion practices.
Yeah. And again, Word Radio did a video about this. I'll link in the description.
What is it? One thing I would like to talk about is some of the practices out there, like that can be considered alchemy.
What
Well, there's of course drugs, and drugs.
is definitely demonic. I mean, think about it.
No, not exactly. Drugs is the term it's supposed to technically be used. However, it's we use drugs now as the term of it's being used for bad purposes, for pleasure, for enjoyment, or for whatever evil things you're trying to
True. But I also think, like, drugs, when you do it, you kind of lose yourself, you know? Like, you can't think, you can't do stuff. And then what is a demon gonna do when he has the opportunity to basically use you as a vessel? He's gonna do it.
do. Not gonna lie, yeah.
So I feel like that's
Always waiting for the opportunity.
yeah. So I think like that's one of the reasons why, and that could be another reason why chemistry and alchemy is witchcraft because it allows demons to possess you. So back to like the witches stirring the pot thing, it's a little bit true, but it's been Hollywoodized.
What does that word mean?
It's been taken by Hollywood and exaggerated.
Oh,
That's my own word. There's an actual technical word, but I just ized Hollywood.
my goodness. Okay. Well, that is really, I really like that idea. It it does make sense. And prescription medicine, it can be used for good purposes. I use prescription medicine because I have a lot of problems.
As do I.
And to be honest, a lot of people they kind of need it as of today. More and more problems show up due to past failures, and not just past failures, just like genetic reasonings, things like that happen all the time. And back then, people used prescription medicine. Well, technically, prescription medicine as in herbs and
Yeah.
all sorts of medicinal practices. However, sometimes it has been used for evil purposes, like making someone fall into a deep sleep, giving someone laxatives.
I was like, are you going to some Beauty and the No, sorry. Sorry, Disney fans. Sleeping Beauty. Like, is this like Sleeping Beauty all of a sudden? The
Mm,
Break the Needles or
well, technically, yeah and no. I do want to remember where it does talk about it in the scriptures. If not, then that's my fault. I'm gonna like give me a moment.
all right,
You go on as I
I'll go on. So, alchemy is, it's thanks for putting me on the spot, Paulo. Chemistry can be used for evil, and I think, which is what witchcraft is really just boiling down to, using stuff for evil. But I think like the core things about witchcraft is manipulation, and I think that's the main thing about manipulation. I think that's the main because who's the greatest manipulator? The devil. And so why wouldn't his counterfeit priesthood members use manipulation? Whether it's manipulation through fear, through manipulation, through deceiving others. I mean, that's magic is deception. And 2 Nephi 26:22 says, He leadeth them by the neck with a flaxen cord until he bindeth them with strong cords forever. That's witchcraft. Small manipulations that eventually bind us in chains. Manipulation is that. And like his goal is to lead us away from God. And whether it looks like mysticism, politics, or social media trends, or just social media in general. Like what we have seen during like this month, really is last month. This is October now. So September, during September, what we were seeing with like Charlie Kirk, or with the Michigan shooting that just happened through social media, these people were radicalized, manipulated, dare I say. But, they were manipulated, stuff like this, to have this idea that they were the other, that they were evil, that they're the Antichrist. So,
Okay, so I found it, and I wasn't listening much to what you were saying. But what I found is in Mosiah 22, the Book of Mormon, it says, "And I will go according to thy command, and pay the last tribute of wine to the Lamanites, and they will be drunken, and we will pass through the secret pass on the left of their camp, when they are drunken and asleep." Now, this
was used for a good thing.
it was used for a good thing. However, it has been used for other evil
Well,
purposes.
it's like kidnapping people. They use chloroform, and
Yes.
the thing, like, that thing, they use it to kidnap people.
It's scary how accessible, like, deadly things, such deadly
Well,
forms
dude,
of
bleach is a
alchemy
cleaning
are.
appliance, and bleach is like straight up poison for you.
Yes. And you can make mustard gas within. Oh, hold on. We shouldn't even be saying that. Anyway,
Anyway, if you want to know, look up how to make M gas on the internet.
no, it's okay. Why am I trying? I know how to search it.
Don't use it on anyone.
Man, that reminds me of how we made like a pepper bomb within our house. The smoke, it was so spicy and
It
so bad.
burns.
It burned and it was all around the house and I was crying, coughing, puking. Not gonna lie, I ran away from the microwave.
Yeah.
But
Um.
anyway,
Anyway, what were we talking? Using alchemy to make people sleep. So I guess all it really boils down to is evil purposes. So yeah, but let's talk about the other side, the priesthood. So I hold the Aaronic priesthood. You hold,
Melchizedek.
yeah, you wouldn't umps me. Um, not technically. I mean, we learned that it's just he has a higher form priesthood. Eventually, I'll get it, hopefully. But so, what is the answer to counterfeit power? Christ. He is always the answer. Where Satan deceives Christ.
Well, yeah, Christ, he basically enlightens us.
What you're supposed to say was Christ reveals the truth. Instead, you take it into this like, well, Christ does do it.
Well, I
Yeah.
want to be as accurate as possible.
Okay.
And he does reveal the truth for
Yeah.
all those who are ready to see it.
Where Satan manipulates, Christ invites freely. Where Satan destroys, Christ recreates and redeems. Doctrine and Covenants 46:8 warns us, wherefore beware lest ye are deceived, that ye may not be deceived. Seek ye earnestly the best gifts, always remembering for what they are given. The
That
true
is really important.
the true gifts of God is faith, discernment, and wisdom. They will always unmask Satan's counterfeit.
Ooh. What I would like to talk about is where it says, "And that ye may not be deceived, seek ye earnestly the best gifts, always remembering for what they are given." That is the important part I like to talk about.
All right.
It's basically like with how we were talking about evil purposes. In there, it's talking about remembering the gifts we're given and what they're given for. It's not saying that the gifts are like inherently good, but and again, it's not talking about it always being bad or stuff like that. But it is telling us there is a purpose as to why. And that is something we often forget. And we just say that the gift is technically we go into saying the gift is the purpose. Manipulation is evil. And I mean like humans, our whole entire language is manipulated. It basically draws on people. It's to make sure people listen to you here and there. It's to make sure people understand you sometimes. Make sure people believe you instead of someone else. And it can be used for evil or for good.
Which I guess boils down to what we've been getting at is evil purposes.
Exactly. Again, we've been like saying it over and over again.
I feel like we've used witchcraft like really loosely here, to be honest. Like not everyone's a witch.
As in Christ.
Right, the like not everyone's a witch. Like maybe some like don't start burning people is what I'm trying to get to. Don't start burning people. Don't do any of that. And what I really want to talk about is what I think we can be, kind of what can we can do is Elder Holland's quote, doubt our doubts. Am I gonna bring this up in every video we do? I might, but maybe we'll start taking a list of every time Tyler talks about doubt your doubts. But like we must my bishop talked about how sin gives us scaly eyes and scaly brain. He uses it. It's like how an alligator has a third or has a second eyelid that allows him to see underwater, but it makes his vision blurred. I think that's what sin does, what witchcraft does. It blurs our vision and blurs our minds, I think. And through that, we got our doubts and we got pray to know the truth and all that stuff. So, you want to say anything before we close out?
I like doubt your doubts because it's not necessarily saying, believe me, because I'm right. But it's more of saying you can doubt, however, just know that there's also another reason not to doubt. It's basically like taking information with a grain of salt. That is something that has been said over and over and over again, not just to me, but to the whole entire world. However, sometimes we don't take it with a grain of salt and we just take it raw.
I mean, think especially
Yeah.
nowadays, like President Nelson has talked about how in order to survive spiritually, we're going to need the gift of the Holy Ghost. Because think about it, with AI coming out and getting so good, we're not going to be able to trust the things we see, because
To be honest, it's been that way from the start where
it's true.
people found ways to create fake things and
It's true, and we need the Holy Spirit to give us the knowledge and the truth. So next time you hear the words witchcraft, don't just think of fairy tales. Think of manipulation, think of deception, think of the counterfeit power that leads us away from Christ. Remember, Satan's greatest magic trick isn't a spell. It's the lie that he has the power greater than God. He doesn't. Christ is the light of the world, and with him every shadow, deception disappears. This is Priya and Moroni, signing out.